Sound, stadium roar, then a slow sinking hum. You ever watch a game in real time and realize the headline was written in the last 30 seconds? That's what Monday night felt like in Jacksonville. Not because the Chiefs were outplayed for 60 minutes, but because one odd, avoidable sequence and a string of small errors rewrote the scoreboard. Kansas City had chances. Mahomes threw for 318 yards and even rushed for 60. But momentum is a fragile thing. When Devin Lloyd returned an interception 99 yards and the offense handed the Jaguars a short field late, tiny mistakes added up into a loss that will live on highlight loops. Reuters, here's the play everyone's replaying. First and goal at the Chiefs 1. Trevor Lawrence stumbles on the snap, a guard steps on his foot, and for a heartbeat, it looks like the drive is dead. But he pops up, scrambles, and dives into the end zone with 23 seconds left. On replay, Chris Jones, the three-time All-Pro and emotional leader of Kansas City's trenches, is in a position where a hustle and a one-yard shove could have ended the sequence. Instead, he slows, and the play becomes the defining frame of the night. That hesitation won't age well in a fan base that prizes effort above explanation. ESPN.com, what's interesting, and what a lot of hot takes missed, is how the public narrative and Jones's reality didn't line up exactly. Fans saw him disappear from the chase and assumed surrender. Jones, speaking afterward, called it a teaching point and accepted responsibility. He said it won't happen again. More strikingly, he told reporters he deactivated his X and Instagram accounts before the game, not after the storm of criticism. That small detail changes the story a little. This wasn't a knee-jerk retreat to avoid backlash, at least by his timeline, but it didn't stop the mob from assuming otherwise. AP News, let's be blunt about the bigger pattern. This wasn't a single-player meltdown so much as a team slipping on a collection of routines. The Chiefs were flagged 13 times for 109 yards. Penalties don't show up as emotional sound bites, but they, more than any single missed tackle, bleed momentum and field position. And in a game where Mahomes made jaw-dropping plays and still paid for a risky throw with a 99-yard pick six, the combination of turnovers, flags, and a mishit kickoff created the exact environment where a one-yard scramble becomes a season headline. Coach Andy Reid called out the discipline problem, and rightly so. You can outstat an opponent all night and still lose if you give away yardage and gifts at critical moments. Now, the spotlight on Jones is understandable. He's the face of that defensive front, a guy who carries expectations as heavy as his contract. But the critique needs context. Through 5 games this season, Jones has had limited splash stats, modest tackle and sack totals compared with his usual production, and pundits rightly point to that. Yet a single misread on one play doesn't erase a decade of elite performance. The problem is optics. When a star looks like he checked out in the obvious highlight, the narrative machine accelerates quickly. Jones owning the mistake and calling it a teaching moment is step 1. Fixing the habit in practice and reps is the more important step that nobody sees on social media. AP News. There's also a human element people swipe past. Players are people. Deactivating social accounts isn't just PR theater. It's a self-preservation move in an era where a clip can summon death threats and pile on harassment. Whether he did it before or after the game, the reality is the same. The glare gets brutal, and social media amplifies punishment out of proportion. That doesn't excuse poor in-game decisions, but it does explain why athletes vanish from platforms after high-visibility errors. The conversation we should have is less about pile-on and more about how teams protect players while still enforcing accountability. Yahoo Thao. So what should the Chiefs do? Right now in this week? Fixes are boring but surgical. 1. Turn penalties into a practice obsession. Drill technique, alignment, and hand placement until the muscle memory returns. A reduction in flags buys you 20 points a season. 2. Reinforce hustle culture with consequences that matter internally. Public scolding is noise. Private accountability that's visible to the locker room works. If Jones's slip was mental, coach the mental. If it was physical, adjust reps and recovery. AP News 3. Simplify late-game special team scripts to reduce variance. Kickoffs, coverage lanes, and kickoff directional choices should be conservative until the unit rebuilds confidence. The sun for Jones personally, the path to repair is classic. Own it, work it, produce it. He said he'll do better. Now watch what he does in drills and in game 2. One hustle play won't fix public opinion, but a week of visible contrition and high-effort reps will start to peel the story from quit to learned lesson. The league respects players who return a week later and deliver. That's how narratives flip in the NFL. AP News. Finally, a truth worth repeating. Single plays make headlines. Patterns make seasons. The Chiefs' problem isn't a one-off lack of effort by a star. It's a team that's been self-inflicting wounds. Penalties, turnovers, and special teams errors stacking into late-game vulnerability. If Kansas City wants to be a title favorite by January, they have to convert Monday's embarrassment into an obsessive week of fundamentals. That's the only kind of revenge that matters in this sport. Last line, quiet and sharp. The tape doesn't forgive hesitation, but it also doesn't forget how you respond after you're called out. If you were Andy Reid for one practice, what's the first drill you'd run to make sure nobody pauses again on a play? Pick one hard, useful exercise and say why. Chris Jones says he deactivated his social accounts before the Jaguars game, and that detail matters because it shows he wasn't hiding from the fallout. He simply didn't want to deal with it in real time. Pete Sweeney first reported the deactivation, and Jones himself has acknowledged the move. Yahoo Thethau, here's the simple play-by-play that blew up. Jacksonville had first and goal at the 1 with 23 seconds left. Trevor Lawrence stumbled on the snap, went down, popped up, and found daylight to scramble into the end zone. On the replay, Jones was close enough to make a play, but appeared to slow, assuming the play was dead, and the league, fans, and media immediately circled that moment. Jones took responsibility. "I thought it was over. I gotta finish. I'll be better." That line is the clearest public admission the Chiefs have. ESPN.com, why the reaction was so fierce is obvious. This isn't a missed sack or a blown coverage. It's the kind of micro-failure that becomes the one play everyone remembers when a game ends in a single score. The Chiefs lost 31-28, and the final sequence rewrote the outcome in the last half minute. When a perennial all-pro and the face of a defense appears to stop, the optics are brutal, and social media, predictably, turned it into a referendum on effort. NFL.com, but context matters too. Jones's season numbers aren't what they were at his peak. Through 5 games, he's logged modest tackle and sack totals, and the Chiefs as a whole have been undisciplined, penalties and execution issues across the board. Jones himself framed the play as a team failure and a personal teaching point, not a character indictment. Coaches have echoed that the defense didn't finish the sequence cleanly. This was a breakdown the unit shares, not a singular moral collapse. KMBC still. Leaders are measured by how they respond when the noise is loud. Jones deactivated social media before the game, sensible for anyone trying to avoid heat. But after, he faced reporters, owned the mistake, and promised to fix it. That's the right first step. The next step is action on the field. More consistent effort on every whistle, better finish on 2- and 3-man gang tackles near the goal line, and cleaner discipline to avoid making single plays decisive. BleacherReport.com. What the Chiefs do next will show the gravity of the moment. They've got a short week and a primetime test at Detroit coming up. Correcting mistakes has to be immediate and surgical. This is a veteran team with recent playoff pedigree, so one game, even one ugly final play, shouldn't define the season. But it can be a turning point in 2 ways. Either it galvanizes the locker room into cleaner, more consistent execution, or it becomes the latest example of slippage that fans and media will keep replaying. NFL.com, for Jones personally, the stakes are reputational as much as practical. He's under a big contract and expected to lead by example. The franchise and coaches will likely treat this as a fixable technique and attitude issue. Finish through the whistle, maintain leverage on scrambles, and avoid the split-second assumptions that cost games. If he delivers that correction publicly, on tape, not in sound bites, the story dies. If he doesn't, the chorus gets louder. NFL.com bottom line, the play was a mistake. Jones owned it. The team must now turn ownership into action. Deactivating social media bought him time to process, but the real remedy is consistent, visible effort in the next game. Do that, and this becomes a blip. Fail to do that, and it becomes a lasting stain on a defense that needs its leader to finish every single play.